Welcome to the
Hey!
show. Our normal person that gives us why you should watch the Heyyy show is in the corner because he was a bad boy and he made bad picks on our games that we play. So he is being punished and he has to sit in the corner. And surprisingly, it's not Chad because Chad wins everything.
But now we don't really know what to do with the show
Yeah,
because
we're
the
lost.
person that runs the show
Yeah.
is in the corner.
Yeah,
We
we-
can still run the show.
Yeah, he's allowed to talk. He just can't
Yeah.
look at the camera.
I just have to project my voice so that you can hear it.
It's bouncing pretty good. You
Okay.
found it. You found a good
There you go.
acoustical sweet spot.
This is the show not for experts.
Correct.
We have to continually say that
Oh, I have a good one for that.
just
next
so that
time.
everyone understands that we're stupid and we have
Yeah.
no clue what we're doing.
Nothing.
Making it up.
I've been
As we
stupid
go.
my whole life, so.
Mm-hmm.
Except Brandon, for some reason, today, not. This is the first time we're filming a show, but he's proven me that I'm stupid.
Have I?
Yeah.
Oh.
What did I say earlier?
Unperfect.
Yeah.
Instead
Or
of
what did I say
imperfect.
before that?
You just
What did I say before that?
I don't remember. There's so
That
many.
you had to fix it.
Some-
Inappropriate or
Unappropriate.
unappropriate. Yeah, I always say unappropriate instead of inappropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's inappropriate, Chad.
Yeah. So, but this is the first time we're filming today.
Yeah.
So, what do we do?
All right, so we're gonna talk about who's number one, and obviously we.
And
all
who's number
watch-
two?
We all watch the show. No, Chad, they don't train. All right, so who's number one? We are gonna talk about that, and we're
That's
gonna
why
talk
it's not
about the IBJF Grand Prix, but we'll talk about that from
Please don't talk
either
about
the October or November one that I refuse to watch. I refuse to watch the November one. I think me and Ronnie got through 2 matches, right?
Uh-huh.
We got
Oh,
through
yeah.
2 matches, and then I watched Kanan go back into half guard a million times,
Yeah.
and then I was like, I don't want to watch this anymore.
The
Anyway,
worst
so-
part about that one was, and even though we're not going to talk about it, we're going to talk about this part. When Cyborg was passing Kanan's guard, he did not break eye contact, and that is the most intimidating thing I've ever seen.
So creepy.
It is from now on how I will be passing guard.
Cyborg passed Kanan's guard?
He didn't when he
Oh.
was
Swept
attempting
me.
to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like,
Cyborg-
wait a minute.
He was Cyborg was inside Kanan's closed guard and was just like didn't move, just right here for 3 minutes.
Maybe he's trying to Ghost Rider pin and stare.
It worked me. I mean, I was like, I tapped. I tapped from the couch.
All right, so who's number one? Obviously, we know there was a lot of change that obviously screwed me, and that's why I'm in the corner right now. But anyways, winner of the night. What do you think? Winner of the night.
Like the best match? Or who got the best
Just,
picks?
I meant just the person who won out the most that night, who did the best, or made the biggest statement.
But for us or for them?
It's really
'Cause-
hard for me to know if you're serious because I'm recording.
Who do you
'Cause-
think was
Because I
had
think
the best
Ronnie
performance?
had the best performance,
Oh,
right?
sure.
Yeah.
That's what we
Of
decided.
picking, yes.
But
we're
I thought
talking
we don't
about
do
the
that.
event. No, we're talking about the event.
Okay, we are
of
in
the
the
event.
Got
This
it.
is where you're supposed to be experts.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're
okay.
not experts, but we're going to attempt to be experts. by
Jacob
saying-
Couch had the best.
You think that
Hold on,
his
hold on.
performance
The
was the best
show-
one?
The show is not for experts.
Oh.
You're experts,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
in quotations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the guy watching that insulted us is not
Yes.
supposed to be an expert.
Okay, so then we're good. We
Yeah.
don't. We
Don't
can
ruin
just.
my
We
open
can.
next time.
Oh, sorry. All right.
Winner of the night.
Are we talking about?
Do you think Couch's
Chad.
performance was the best performance that
No.
night?
I'm trying to think the matches.
And it's
again,
not.
though.
And it's not that he didn't have a good performance. It's just that he didn't go up against someone that.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Right.
He's gone up against higher quality people and beat them.
Right,
You know.
for sure.
Yeah. If we were talking the who's number one where he beat J Rod, now that was that was a big.
Jimenez?
Or Jimenez was a
Yes.
good match.
Yeah.
He's actually beat some really good people,
Yes.
but that.
I actually didn't know he went up against J-Rod once.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, yeah.
Yep.
I guess I missed that one.
It was
Yeah.
the one where he basically ended up close guard and then sweeping him,
Swept him into
and then
mount.
just stayed in the mount pretty
Yeah.
much the whole match.
Yep.
Can we be honest here? That event ended up being a disaster.
Woo.
Like all the pullouts and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
All the switching around.
I don't really remember.
It was almost like an enhancement match in WWE where some like jobber comes out, and a couple of them, that's how the matches felt.
Yeah.
So what matches? We had the Rita match,
Yeah.
which was a big upset.
Yeah.
Who won that?
Luke Griffin.
Yeah, that was a good one for him. And like we've talked about
That
I
might
mean,
be the one.
How did
That
he
honestly
win?
probably is.
It was
Heel
like a
hook.
quick heel hook. What? Like really quick.
I think Rita was lazy in his guard passing, and he left it wide open. He passed his guard. He like went to knee on belly, and then Luke just like whipped in his leg and got the heel hook.
I don't know how fast Rita got his black belt. I know he went to Tokyo and got it. But to me, this is how I feel about Rita because I like him. I talk to him at every event. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, we
he's
talked
he's
to
a
him.
really cool guy. So I'm not hating on him.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, he's a new level black belt.
Yeah.
So he still makes what I would call white black belt mistakes, right? Like he'll go out there and he'll create it. It's almost like he's so nervous
Mm-hmm.
that he'll go out there and he'll either do incredible
Against like
or
they
he'll
did against
shit the
Cyborg.
bed, right?
Or like they did against
Um,
Luke Griffin. Those are
And
great
the
examples.
reason he's doing that is because he's jumped from not the big scene to now he is the big scene.
right.
And in his head, he's like, it's like that guy, right? When you do your first tournament
Mhm.
and you blow your arms out and you're like, I can't feel my arms.
Mm-hmm.
He's that right now. It's literally balls to the wall. I'm going to either sub him or get subbed.
Did you remember that match he had at No Gi Pans where that guy slapped him like 10 times or whatever?
Yeah. That was actually not a bad match. But those Brazilians definitely try to. It's kind of like the Gordon
That
Ryan.
ref, no,
Andre-
remember the ref DQ'd him, but then they kept going or something? It was weird.
yeah.
It was really
I'm trying to
weird.
remember it. It was.
This is really hard. I can't see your faces, so then I can't like tell when I should jump in. So if I step over you, I apologize. But you assholes are doing loser of the night, which is the next question.
Okay.
That's all we asked for.
I read the
winner
script.
of the night. So
That didn't get sent to
picked
me.
one loser. So winner, Luke.
Well, what's the matches? Can we decide the matches?
So we had
Pasto
the
Saint Marie.
Okay, no one cares about that.
Jesus.
We're making friends.
Chad making friends.
Cole.
Hawkins. Thank you, Dorian.
And
for
I
that
am
one.
I am not making fun of anybody, but don't know the guy who went.
No, that
against.
was a good match.
No.
Because that guy took the spot
No,
last
sir,
minute,
it
right?
wasn't. No, it wasn't.
We
Wasn't
watched
good for
that
Cole.
Well, he won, right?
Yeah, but
It
he
was-
won a decision.
Yeah.
And he didn't. He looked pretty flat.
Yeah.
I felt like he looked kind of flat. So
I'm just trying to think like the most transitions that happen. Like in Couch's matches, not much happened.
Rita.
And Rita's match, even though it's a cool thing, that's it.
right,
You're
it's
done.
quick.
So to me, it's like if you want to learn jiu-jitsu and you want to see a lot of crazy shit happen, what was the best match for
Well,
excitement?
we're not necessarily saying what was the best match for excitement. We're saying who had the best performance that night. If
Yeah.
you were
Okay.
Dana White giving out performance of the night bonus, if you're
And I guess Luke might have to get it.
I kind of think so too. He had
I mean, he went
the
out and he got it
biggest
done.
upset.
Yeah.
Upsets normally kind of
Yeah, sorry.
drive
I stepped on you. I'm sorry. Also, you're being dismissive of Saint Marie, but she also just killed the
Yeah.
we thought was the best woman in
girl.
the world, and
That's true.
she seems like she's going through an identity crisis or something, losing at the Grand Prix and that.
yeah.
I feel
And
like
also not really showing up at ADCC either.
Yeah. Oh Jesus. Yeah. I
And
didn't know
somebody
that.
called me,
Wow.
and I don't want to insult anything, but what do you think about it being the last match, the main event?
what?
The women's being the main event.
Oh, it had to be.
Yeah, it's the biggest names.
Yeah. Those are the
Right,
two
but
biggest
do you
names.
think that will draw the biggest crowd?
Well,
Because I got an intel, and half of the crowd left for the finals match, for the main event match. Half of the
that
crowd was gone
sucks.
after Couch's match.
Well, one it
See the
sucks.
semifinal?
He was a semi-match, yeah.
One, it sucks.
Co-main event.
Two, we obviously know where you got that from.
I'm not
Three-
hating on women.
No.
But-
I'm saying it in this way. When you have that, like you go from I can't say his name. Fuck already. Josh Cicero.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you go from him
Cicero.
fighting Cole, right?
Yeah.
And then you go from like all those amazing matchups, and then that's the only match that's left. You have to elevate them because that's the one that's the most quality. I'm not making fun of the people that Couch went against or
Right.
Cole went against, but we knew those weren't going to be like barn burners, right?
Right.
The guy that's supposed to win is going to win that. That's why I equated it to a jobber match in WWE. Those guys are very high level competitors and stuff like that, but we knew what was going to happen probably.
That brings up, and I'm going to bring us off topic here, but I think it's a cool point. When you have those things happen where people are pulling out, do you think it's better to just scrap the fight?
Can you put a pin in that?
Okay.
We're actually going to that.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh,
No, it's
yep,
okay.
pin
It's
in
okay.
that.
Yep. No.
So think about it like this. I'm not hating on women, okay? Are they, or when will they be a main event material? Because here's the thing. Just like women's NBA, for jiu-jitsu. Because you have women's NBA, you have NBA. Clearly, the following is completely different. And the same is for jiu-jitsu in every sport, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, will it ever be where women and men, the women could be a main event, and it be like, I want to watch it, and it
It's
has
hard.
the highest pay-per-view? Kind of like Ronda Rousey.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say
She
the
took-
UFC, they do that already.
Right. Well, but
it wasn't at first. It took a long
took a
time
while.
to get
Took
to
a
that
while.
point.
Right.
But now there's several women that I really look forward to
Yeah.
seeing
correct.
fight.
But
So-
now, even now, what would have a higher following? The women's main event, right? Like, what women's main event would pass a men's main event in the sport if you put it on paper? I don't think it would happen.
Ronnie, would you rather watch Stamp and Angela Lee go again? Or would
Or
you rather watch
pick the-
Rotate?
Well, first,
main event.
don't do that. Because
No. I meant like a Muay Thai Rotate match where we just watch Rotate
Yeah.
just destroy a champion.
Or think about your favorite male main event card ever,
Mm-hmm.
and your favorite female.
Yeah.
Which one would you rather pay money if you had to pick?
Oh, man.
And you know the answer.
The night that Holly Holm knocked out Ronda Rousey
Was beautiful.
was one of my absolute favorite fights of all time. And to be honest, like I feel like when it comes to MMA, I feel like it's fairly neck and neck.
And
I
now-
agree
with
when we're
MMA, the
talking-
gap is a lot closer.
I feel like
it's
with
grown for
jiu-jitsu,
sure.
you're right that I don't think of jiu-jitsu women that I can't think of. I don't pull those off the top of my head as quickly as I can say Gordon Ryan. I mean, that one's at the tip of my
So
tongue
now
the whole
take
time.
it back, because I'm not saying that they're bad or that you don't want to watch them or whatever's the case. I'm just saying, one, you're going to need a lot more women in the sport. What's the number count? 50 men to 1 woman in the sport right now.
I would say this, just so we don't get too much shit for it. The weight classes are a problem.
For sure.
Like ADCC, 135 down and up. That's insane.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine if they made men do that?
Yeah.
Or
that-
just regular tournaments where it's 150 and up for women's ultra heavy.
Oh, well, hold on.
Yeah.
But hold on. Like 135 up and down. That would be like in men. That would be the equivalency of probably
150 up.
180.
Yeah.
No, I'd probably be closer to 180 up
Yeah,
and down.
it might be, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, Jesus Christ, could you imagine that? Like, just, like, lightweights going against, 180 guys?
Yeah.
I mean, the matches would look bad, too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with St. Marie and Bassos, there was
Yeah,
a
I mean,
size difference
Baby
on
Sharks
that.
going against Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah,
I mean,
it's just not fun. So, I mean, I will say that the women's weight divisions,
but it goes
Don't
back to
know.
the numbers thing.
yeah, no,
It's
I agree.
50 males to 1 female. And so the realistic part we need to figure out is, one, more females need to get in the sport. More females need to support each other. More females need to train. So
have there
that,
ever been any females that have competed against men? Has that ever happened?
Yes.
I mean, it's probably not the greatest
Uh,
outcome.
Kyra Gracie, I think, was the only one. Because I remember, this is just something in my random thing about when Sonya started training jiu-jitsu, that was what her coach kept saying over and over. Because her coach was insane and wanted her to fight men.
I mean, it's...
And I never believed that. I was always just like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
But, I want women to get paid. I want women
Yeah.
to... I would love for the women to have a main event that has a huge pay-per-view following.
Yeah.
But I just don't think the sport's there yet.
And then on the
Davies will be that draw. I'm sorry, Ronnie.
on
Okay.
the flip side of that, where there's not enough women to do it to support it. There's also no reason for them to, because there's not enough reason for them to.
Yeah.
Right? With guys, there's so many different ways you can make money doing it. With women, there's like 1 or 2 paths. So if you don't align with one of those 1 or 2 paths, which making the weight classes will help that. and more events that have women headliners, that would make more women want to. It's like, well, they did it, I have a better shot because I can see it more often. Where right now it's fairly hit or miss. You have to search it out to find it.
What- Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I was gonna say they need to be more entertaining.
That's what I was going to say. What is it about the women's matches that people find
So-
less entertaining? What is it that needs to be
Their
different?
shit talk kind of isn't the greatest. A lot of times they compliment each other. They're kind of like.
I don't.
It-
that
it-
doesn't really matter to me.
They
though,
do
to
that
be
in
honest.
MMA too, though. Like,
But look at like what was the best time? Ronda Rousey and Holly Holmes.
Well, we're talking
Those
about
one-
MMA or are we talking about jiu-jitsu?
Right, but I'm saying when you look at what made people want to follow women more in the sport, right, was Ronda Rousey came on the scene and it was entertaining. The way that she carried herself, the way that she had this hype made people want to follow
But
her.
people love
And
to
then-
hate her. Was the difference?
But it doesn't matter. You got to figure out where your strength is to get the following.
Yeah.
Right now in jiu-jitsu, the stamp thing that Michael said, she has kind of this little thing right now that's really like she comes out and she does her little gig and she's good and she's entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Like women have to, it's almost like Conor McGregor, right? You can love him or you can hate him, but he came out and he created this image
But the thing
that
about MMA
made
is
people
that
follow him.
MMA is inherently an exciting sport. Jiu-jitsu is inherently not an exciting
Correct.
sport.
So you have to be the Gordon Ryan
you have
today.
to be the
You
person
have
that's willing to
be
put more on the line to make it
the
more
Jacob
exciting.
Couch, right? Like it's almost like they're so exciting. You want to know more
Right.
about their things. But what women are like that right now in the sport? Like you don't want to know more about Bastos.
Well, I'll be honest.
You don't- I mean-
85% of the men are in the same fucking boat too.
100%.
So-
Yeah,
But it's only the top people that are making this. So how do you become a mainstream?
You have to find some reason to
the
be
woman-
compelling.
The woman that is the closest to that is probably Davies.
Right now, yeah, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of love and hate behind it.
Yeah, because it's both sides, and she's, is it Welsh? Because it's
Yeah.
the dragon flag,
Mhm.
Welsh. She's Welsh, and it's different. Is there going to be an American or a Brazilian that challenges her, and blah blah, and there's a rivalry or something? I mean, that might make it, but I don't know. I really don't. I don't know the competitor that's going to make it. I thought Grace Gundrum had a huge chance in that, but
No,
they sheltered. But she's exciting to watch. She only goes for subs.
But she doesn't have a personality.
That is unfortunately what it all comes down to, I think.
I mean, she might, but that doesn't get displayed.
No,
There's
I
still
think-
people that are exciting to watch in like MMA that don't have personalities, but whenever
Right,
the
but
sport
you don't
isn't
want.
exciting
It's
inherently.
one
in
thing to
itself,
watch. It's one thing to watch. It's another thing to want to be involved in that person's life.
What's your favorite Fedor interview?
I can't even recall any interviews Fedor's ever done.
Because he sits there and drinks coffee in the back, and then he goes out and fights a human being.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't talk or anything like that.
But and at the end, it's like he's great, he's wonderful. But at one point,
But
you
he-
want to know certain people's lives and their decisions, and you want to know more about them.
we actually are going to get back to this, so I'm going to put a pin in it for right now.
Alright.
Loser of the night, because this one's easy. We just named the two losers.
You talking about Rita?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Is
and
every big upset that ever
Bastards.
happens always an ankle lock or a heel hook?
It's
Like
seems like it, yeah.
Yeah.
it's
90% of the
it's
time.
probably one of the fastest submissions, and,
Yeah.
and the only one who had other faster submissions was Edwin Namji with his flying submissions because he could hit those
Oh,
off the bat.
yeah.
Yeah,
he
I
is
don't.
exciting.
I mean, I don't know what other thing you could do to get a major upset. You make one wrong step and you're heel hooked.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
It's
will
just
say
always the submission that is predicated with the upsets, I feel like.
anything else. I mean, a front headlock, you're gonna maybe possibly survive. Or you're
survive
gonna,
that.
like a triangle, you might survive. An arm bar, you might
Nothing's
even
as
be able to
devastating as
survive.
getting your knee ripped apart.
But
So-
yeah, like
That's like a flash knockout.
Yeah.
Like the heel hook. And then Bastos just being bludgeoned by Saint Marie and just getting smashed the entire time. Those are both just pretty horrific ways to lose, obviously. But I want to get back to biggest takeaway because Ronnie, you were hitting on it. So biggest takeaway of the event. So the way I was going to frame it is, they have to start like having backup people, right?
Have them ready to go.
Have 'em ready
It's like
to go.
you are the backup, and then also let your people know, like, hey, this is your guy, he's your backup. You know,
Yeah.
so you can plan for 2 different people, so
Yep.
you can, you have that. And I feel like it's when you're pulling someone fresh off, from the couch, coming in, or even if it's someone that that's been training, or it's tough to switch them up right before then. There's no build up
It's
to
tough for
it.
both
There's no,
parties.
exactly.
The build-up, I think, is the most important thing.
Yeah.
As far as the media perspective today.
Yeah.
It's like, look at ADCC a little bit, but I mean, like, everyone's doing, like, the interviews are cool, the shit talk's cool sometimes, the watching each other's lives and their training,
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff kind of like builds the match up.
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of what sucks about jiu-jitsu in general is you just show up to a tournament and then you compete.
Yeah.
But now it's trying to become more mainstream,
Yeah.
and you almost, again, it goes back to you want to know that person's life.
Well, I don't know if you guys watch these, but before any big UFC event, they do these things called embedded.
Yeah.
And they follow the fighters to their gyms, their
Yeah.
lives, they go through everything, and it makes you like, I want to go along with them for the journey, and that makes you excited to see what's going to happen.
And I feel like
in the fight.
jiu-jitsu is kind of starting to do that and figure that out.
Because Flow does basically the same
Yeah.
thing. They call it the road to
Yeah.
whatever it is, and then they are in B Team's gym, New Wave's gym, Atos gym, whatever it is. So
And I think it almost needs to get a little bit bigger than that, and they're figuring that out. Like, if Ronnie's competing on who's number one, they need to go hang out with his family for a day. They need to go to dinner with him. They need to capture, like,
as
a
much
whole
footage
couple
as they can for a
days
day or two.
and really build that up so that for 1 week you're getting a whole content on Ronnie and a whole content on who
That's
he's
exactly
fighting
how
against.
they do it in the UFC.
And then, you have the match, and now people almost feel like they're
They've went along with you for this
Yeah.
journey a little bit.
you kind of have someone that in your mind who you're rooting for.
Right.
Unless you're a gambler, then you've already picked
Yeah.
someone.
yeah. So to me, I think that needs to continue, and I think they need that for men and women.
Yeah.
I think, if you kind of went on followed some of these people, if you would have followed the St. Marie and the Bastos and at least seen how hard they trained, how much effort they put into it, how much shit they went through,
Sometimes
I think
it's
you
just
might.
cool to see their personalities, too.
Yeah.
But think about like this, instead of leaving maybe at that main event or turning Flow off, like I would like to know what the statistics of people that turned the show off or walked out on the finals compared to staying. Okay? And that's not hating on them. I think the buildup is done wrong. I think the
Right.
marketing is done wrong. You just said, like, you showed Couch's match.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I saw footage on Couch and I saw footage on the person that he fought in a little bit of their lives, and you knew their lives because they've already been on the mainstream.
Right.
You didn't get anything on the finals match.
Right.
So I think if they would have built that up more and done it right, people would have.
That is true. Like when you go look at highlights, you see Rita's highlight, you see Couch's highlight. You see those, but they're not showing highlights. And I know that was the Bastos St. Marie match was a grind match. There wasn't probably a lot of close submissions or anything, but you can edit those to make them look, like, oh, here's a transition, and you can find the transitions. Unless the only way that would not work is if literally she sat in her guard the entire time and nothing happened.
Yeah.
And it couldn't have been that way. They would have done something. They would have stood him up. They would have done something. So you just
But
gotta.
you feel more invested in Rita's life. You feel more invested in Couch's life because you've watched their journey now and you've understood that.
Yeah.
And women don't get that as much.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with what you're saying. It took me a little bit to remember to figure out what you're saying, but I agree now. Yes, that you're right. They're not getting the background play that the men are, and that's probably the biggest thing hurting them.
All right, so thoughts about the big matchups announced for February.
What's going on February?
And if you don't know what those are, Ryan versus Pena and Marigali versus Jones.
Yeah.
Craig Jones?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can't believe you said it that way. It took me a
So
minute.
Ryan Hall versus Felipe Pena, right? There's not another
kinda would like
Ryan
to
in
see that
jiu-jitsu. No
Ryan
one
Hall
wants-
versus Felipe Pena? Dude, I like Ryan Hall a lot.
I do
don't-
too, but
yeah, I
he
don't-
would get destroyed.
I don't
by
know
Pena.
at this point.
He would, for sure.
I mean, yeah, like I said before, I think I think Pena's done. I think that Gordon Ryan is going to go out and try to do his make Pena quit again.
Mm-hmm.
And Pena's going to quit again, and he's going to be done. He's like, F this.
Is it no time limit?
I think it's 35 minutes. They have a time limit.
Yeah.
He's been 25 minutes. That's what they've been agreeing to.
Okay.
25.
I knew that they agreed on a time because they didn't want to do that again, but it was entertaining. And then the Marigali and Craig Jones match,
I feel like Craig's got to win that.
I want Craig to win.
I want him to win it so bad, but I don't.
I don't know.
Really? You
I
guys are going against Marangali?
Well, only for a few reasons.
Craig Jones is one of my favorites.
I want what?
We were gonna make a bet.
You should have made the bet because we would have both lost.
I love Marigali. I've always been a Marigali
Yeah.
fan, but I mean, I like
personality-wise, Craig Jones is just
Sure.
way
I
better.
think
for sure.
To me, Craig Jones is the second best in the world.
Yeah.
He
I
needs to
agree
be
with
second
that.
best in the world. If he loses, it's third best.
Have you
Right?
seen
Like,
all
I
his-
know he lost to Kanan, but who gives a shit?
Have you seen on his profile?
Yeah, after watching that key shit, I'm
Yeah.
like, what the hell?
But to me, Craig Jones, he's smart at what he's doing, and it's probably what, a 20-minute match, I'm guessing.
I don't know.
So
Their match, it'll probably be the 15. They don't. They
with an
only
overtime, right?
They only no. It's usually judge's decision. They don't make the exception except for Gordon on that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they both got second at ADCC. So.
Yeah, I mean it's a cool match. I, for some reason, would like Craig Jones to win. I think. I just feel that way.
He has to be the second best for you.
Yeah, well, I just think that
Interesting.
it's interesting to think about, like, or Gordon Ryan's the only one that should be able to beat him, and it kind of would suck to have him lose to Gordon Ryan's teammate.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like it moves you down mentally for some reason.
Yeah.
And I want him to stay in the role that he's at because I think he does so well at it.
Yes. I
So,
agree.
At
It's weird.
ADCC,
It's
Gordon
kind of that
did the
predestination shit.
Gordon did the heaviest division, right, at ADCC?
Yes.
And then below that was
Craig
Giancarlo.
No, Bedoni was lower than that. He
Okay,
was.
so below that was Craig Jones.
Yeah, I think
and-
Craig Jones and Kanan were the.
Kanan.
Craig Jones and Kanan was right below Gordon, and then.
And then below that was Giancarlo.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, no one ever mentions too that Craig Jones looked the most dominant too at ADCC.
I do.
Until he lost to Kane.
Until he
Yeah.
hit Kanan, yeah.
Yeah.
He did great for sure.
Which is kind of crazy. I mean, like he popped that one guy's arm and like
Yeah,
he
that
didn't
was.
even know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His technique's beautiful.
Yeah.
I just like
So
Gordon said
smooth.
though, the only thing about it is he's not complete.
He struggles when he gets dragged into deep waters. That's for
Well,
sure.
and it's like it's certain areas his passing still not incredible.
Mhm.
Like his guard is out of this world. It's
Right.
150, right?
Yeah.
But then like his wrestling is probably more like an 80 out of 100. Like his passing is probably a 70 out of 100. But his guard and his leg locks are 150 out of 100.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember
Like,
at that one tournament? It might have
Unfortunately,
been,
Gordon is 100 out of 100 in every area right now.
it might have been the EBI or something when Craig had that fully locked out armbar.
Yeah, on Gordon.
Ryan
Yeah,
or
I
whatever.
watch
Yeah.
that match all the time. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's-
Afterwards, he's so frustrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could.
just
He's
see-
just seeing like what.
And he's been in that same spot now since then. He's just
I was
been that
thinking
one
this the other
step behind,
day
I feel like.
because when you watch that match, I just watched it the other day. They look so young. They're not on steroids yet. Either one of them. Like, just look at them in that match as babies,
Mhm.
and now look at them like they went from being like really nobodies, both of them.
Yeah.
It's
That
like
kinda
they're.
is what
It's like
made him.
I always used to say that
Those
Andrew
EBIs.
and I's fate is almost intertwined. I feel like Gordon Ryan and Craig Jones'
Yeah.
fate is almost intertwined essentially.
Yeah.
Like, it's just how it is. Like, if Andrew takes second at a tournament, I take second at a tournament. I don't know why. It's been almost that way. When I calculate all my events, it's almost been that way. Same with Craig Jones and Gordon Ryan, I feel like.
Yeah.
Spooky.
What's the what we're at time?
30 minutes.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna skip the Grand Prix.
Fair enough.
Okay.
We
All
didn't
right.
really care about that.
Now, I do
Didn't
want
see
to
it anymore.
mention with the Grand Prix, your thoughts on this. There has been a lot of matches on the Grand Prix that are like 27 to nothing. Like, one person is just way more dominant than the other. They're just showcasing people, right?
Yeah.
For that
it's-
tournament.
If you have someone that scores that much on one person, that is a statement. That
What are
is
the
all
most
it is.
points ever scored in a tournament in
That's a good
IBJJF?
question.
You think it's over 100?
No, it's 50 or 80. It's somewhere in there. Tannen just hit it, I think, or got close and they made the post. It was like 50-something points, and then they posted the record, and it's under 100.
So he
Okay.
just kept putting his foot back in the half guard
Yeah.
and then coming back.
Well,
That
that's what a
move.
lot of them do. Like, I don't know. Tannen hit a lot, and I thought I saw a post where it said
Yeah.
he almost broke the record, and this is the record in IBJJF. And it wasn't 100. It was somewhere between 50 and 80.
All right. I was just curious.
But yeah, like it's people are trying to hit that now. Like that's a thing.
All right, so we're gonna ask the last question, and that's what event do you prefer? And I'll answer for all of us. Who's number one? And we'll go on. How it sound? Does that sound good? All right.
I mean, I definitely think it's a
I
standard.
remember one time
today.
Andrew went against Cody at like a Fuji and
Yeah,
scored like
scored
70
50
points or
it
something.
was a lot. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
it was 75. Maybe
Yeah.
it's 75.
He said he was 1 point shy of the record or something. I remember too.
I remember Cody came over and asked Chad for advice on that event too, and that was fun.
What was my advice? Don't do the match.
It's probably the best advice
That
you could
was
give him.
that was it. That was the first joke answer, and the second answer was just pray that you get to some sort of leg entanglement.
I think I said,
Which I was like, oh God.
don't give up a shit ton of points and just stay in one position.
We
Man.
remember that different, but okay.
I don't
All
know.
right.
I knew that Andrew wanted to score a lot of points on him, so that's because I remember Andrew saying, "I'm going to try to break my record" or something to me.
That's with that. You have to give the
That was
Knight's
that
Tale
Fuji
line.
that was annoying. What was it?
The Knight's Tale where they say, if you were to beat him, how would you do it? And he said, with a stick while he sleeps.
Yeah,
That's a
That
good
movie
line.
is. I miss that movie.
That's a good one.
it makes me sad. I can't watch it because Heath
Why?
Ledger's dead.
Oh, why can't you watch it?
I can't watch it. I don't know. It makes me sad.
So you don't
when
watch
I
Batman
it.
anymore?
No, I watch that because it's so unbelievable that he's the Joker. But the other movie I love is 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah.
And I can't watch that.
That's Kalen's probably top 10, in top 10.
It would be pretty close if I could watch it again because I love that movie.
Night
but I
Tale's
can't
pretty
watch
good.
it.
I watched that
Night
not
Tale
long
is
ago.
one of my favorite movies.
Isn't
growing up.
that guy that plays the lizard and he's like in Game of Thrones now? Isn't he the he's
I've never
like the
watched
guy
Game of
who
Thrones.
he's the guy who does like all the announcing for him, like the really British guy.
Oh, yeah.
That guy's amazing.
He's also in Avengers. He is
Vision?
Vision, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay. No.
okay.
Yeah. No, I know
Oh,
who you're
okay.
talking
Yeah, no, I had the wrong guy there, but that's.
I was thinking of Blizzard,
Okay.
the doctor or whatever.
Yeah. All right.
Oh.
So we have our next segment is an oldie. It's one of from our first line of tapings. We haven't went back to it though, but it is a segment called "How to This." Basically, you guys tell somebody how to this. Okay. All right. So
Are we all getting the same question?
yeah.
Okay.
So basically, the scenario this time is somebody wants to start fighting in amateur MMA, and to make it fair, so we don't talk about our own people, we are going to say welterweight on down. How do you start fighting in amateur MMA?
And do they have aspirations to go pro?
I left it in amateur because we've encountered a lot of people who just say, hey, I want to do amateur and see where it goes from there type deal. So that's where I kind of want to leave it. But what would your suggestion to them be if they just wanted to try amateur MMA at the smaller weight divisions?
You both look at me immediately. Well, the first thing is, even at smaller, if anyone that wants to try amateur MMA, and are we going to assume they have no background at all? They just I would like to get in the cage someday.
That is where I made the question.
Okay.
This person has no training. at
Gotcha.
all.
I always try to get people to do a minimum, and I mean bare minimum, of 6 months of jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
whether they do any striking at all during that time or not.
I think that's a good
Just
idea.
because those hard rounds, that's like your first speed bump. Can you go in and do some hard rounds, some
Yeah.
hard sparring rounds, and not feel like I'm done with life?
Yeah.
If you can handle that, just right off the bat, can you handle that? Yes? Okay. Then we go to the next
Yeah,
step.
that's a good jumping off point.
Yeah, once you've done at least 6 months, and I'm comfortable with you having 6 months in, then we start working on some basic striking stuff, all defense. And once you get to the point where you can go a few rounds without getting hit too much, even at 50%, then we can start looking at that. And then the other thing is just make sure that if you pick your fights. There's those. It's tough because when you're first starting and you're 0-0, you're gonna get an 0-0, or maybe if you're lucky, an 0-1, or even a 1-0 is better
But
than
then
nothing.
even if you get that, you don't know if they've been around for 20 years.
Yeah, you
Doing bad training. It's
Mhm.
not like jiu-jitsu, like you put a white belt on and blah, blah, blah. Like, there's still people that sandbagging that.
Mhm.
But at amateur fighting, it's the worst
correct.
because it's like sandbagging at the highest level. You
Mhm.
might legit train 6 months and get an 0-1 guy that's been around it for 20 years.
Correct.
And that
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah, the only thing is if you get an 0-1 guy or even a 1-0 guy, you at least most likely have a fight you can watch.
Yeah.
Most likely. And even then you can't, like there's some that don't have their footage up and
Right.
or it's behind a paywall on some of the more experienced ones. But if you can do enough research on someone, because everyone, like if they wrestled in high school, you can find that out. That's easy enough. There's record of that everywhere. If they've done jiu-jitsu tournaments, that one's a little harder to find. If they've done any amateur boxing or kickboxing, normally you can find that kind of stuff. But when you're going against an 0-0, you're just going to have to train for everything, and that's the downside of it. And you have to know that if you maybe you just get a bad pull and you lose, it's no big deal. And then that's the other hurdle. Once you fought and you realize, even if you win or lose, you have to realize, okay, was it a bad pull? Was that guy really that much better than me, or was it
nerves?
Was it nerves? You know,
Yeah, I can imagine having the door closed behind me and saying, "All right."
Yeah, and doing jiu-jitsu
Spooky.
tournaments it's not as
It's a step. But
it's a
not.
step,
It's like
but
it's
it's not
step
the same.
1, and you're going to step 10.
Yeah.
Like
For sure.
I would say even like super fight jiu-jitsu, like even taking a super fight.
I would still
isn't
say that's
the
like
same.
step 2.
Yes.
The step
3
10.
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a big difference
Huge.
between
Mhm.
I can tap. I mean, I guess you could tap in the cage or
Yeah.
quit at any time,
Yeah.
but like the pressure feels so much more when they
Right.
lock that door. They're like, I don't want to be a bitch.
Yeah.
But a jiu-jitsu tournament, you're like, I don't care if I'm a
Mhm.
bitch sometimes.
And also, like a lot of people, they like if you are a guy that's a grappler, a lot of them you shy away from boxing and stuff like that. But if you're doing amateur fights, it's always nice to take some of those just to broaden your spectrum, just to see how you would do if it was purely just kickboxing or purely just boxing. As long as you take something that's going to be, you don't really want to take those that are like on MMA ones, because those are never really judged as well. Like every time I see a kickboxing fight mixed in with on an MMA card, normally I don't feel like the judging is very good. So
Yeah.
as long as you're okay with taking that result and throwing it out the window, it's not a big deal. But you just gotta, like, another thing we were kind of haven't mentioned, but another thing is your age. If you're on the older side, you're going to have to jump in a little more head first. You may have to take those bare minimums. I trained for 6 months. I've done 3 months of striking. Let's get a fight. Let's see how I turn out, and then, just see where it goes from there. Whereas if you're like 18, just get your blue belt, you
Yeah.
know, and do striking alongside it. Take a few boxing fights and stuff like that. You're young. You have that time to develop all this. So
I definitely agree that you got to find, whether it's through jiu-jitsu or wrestling or whatever it is, whatever training method you're going through, you got to find out if you're mentally tough enough to
Yeah.
go through that,
for sure.
Because you don't want to find that out when you get in the cage and start
Yes.
getting hit.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of things I would do differently if I had students lined up at the door that want to train.
Mhm.
That's the negative. Like right now, there's coaches in the world that have people that are lining up at the door to train with them.
Yeah.
And it makes it a lot easier to set up a really good, solid program
Mhm.
compared to where like you're begging people, or you're just pulling in people that are like, hey, I want to be a world champion maybe, or hey, I want to be a fighter maybe.
Mhm.
And that makes it so much harder because you can't push people or set things up the same way.
Yeah.
To me, you should have a blue belt before you ever step in the cage. In
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu, 100%. Because at least at that point,
At least a Gracie blue belt.
Well, no. But at least a blue belt that has competed 6 times. I don't care what tournament it is, but you have at least done 6 jiu-jitsu tournaments. The same kind of, it's like Ronnie's saying, you should do some boxing, you should do this, and this. To me, at least if you're competing in a jiu-jitsu tournament, you're getting yourself mentally prepared for some people watching,
Mhm.
for some people judging you. It's like I said, it might be that level 1 in 10. I was watching that movie Limitless the other day. Is that it, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a neat movie. I thought we should kind of do that as like he has to go out and walk on this building, which is one of his biggest fears. That's really high. Am I not
Yes.
supposed to talk about this?
No. I'll go ahead and tell all the challenges whenever a second. But it's all of us are going to die. Go ahead.
Okay.
But to be able to do that, he's got like 3 days to do that. He has to do all of these other things to get to that point.
Mhm.
And when he finally does it, it's easy.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing with getting in the cage. You got to go do a jiu-jitsu tournament 6 times. You got to be in the training room getting completely destroyed so that you get
And
used to
still
getting
feeling tough
destroyed.
enough to keep going. Like, that's the
Would
hardest
you
part.
equate that with wrestling? Like, if you had someone that I wrestled 4 years in high school, would you equate that with basically that same amount?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, any grappling is going to help you. Any competition
Yeah.
is going to help you. But to me, the grappling part's the most important.
Yep. I
Only
agree.
because, okay, yes, you can get the freak knockout but how many knockouts do you really see at amateur?
Well, the thing
1
is,
out of 10 matches, probably.
Yeah. Easy.
well, not even that, but there's no freak side control escapes. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
like you don't just freak escape a position that sucks. Like,
Yeah.
I think grappling teaches you to control yourself, control your emotions, control others, and you get to do tournaments that help
And
get
how
you
to
ready
manage-
for that that tall skyscraper.
Mhm.
I don't think anything can get you ready for walking the tall skyscrapers.
No, but it was kind of neat because in the movie, she puts this VR set on him and makes him feel like he's going up the elevator, and then he's walking out in this VR, and they're all like scared, right? Then he does this cool training where it's some kind of military training where he has to tie his hands behind his back and his feet, and he has to drop down in a 12-foot pool or whatever, touch the bottom, get up 20 times to get 1 breath of air each time for 20 times. And you start thinking about that, like mentally, that would be
Yeah.
kind of hard. You know, you think it'd be easy the first 4 times, just like you start doing bear crawls, and you're like,
Right.
this is not bad.
Yeah,
And then you
the
got to
sixth
really
one, you're
start
like, I
getting your
can't
brain
do this
into it.
now.
Yeah.
All of that, I think, is the same with the cage.
Yeah.
You've got to start. You're not going to get to 10, but if you could get to 7, he's probably going to survive the cage.
Yeah, you gotta control.
But if you
your
keep him at
emotions.
1 or 2
You're
and
in
then
the-
lock the door,
Yeah.
whew, you know, that's
You
where
better
your
hope he
nerves
gets a
might shut
freak
down.
knockout.
Yeah, and having that grappling, how many times have we seen high level strikers get beat by grapplers in
by
the
a
cage?
takedown, by
Yeah.
one double leg or
Yeah,
something, you know?
it's
That's all it
having
takes.
having that grappling and being able to hold someone down. If you're getting your shit rock standing, it's not hard to get a clinch. We had a Muay Thai guy come up to our open mat. And he said his specialty was clinch work. He was good at clinch work. And I was striking with him, and no matter what I did, he would clinch up with me. Now, inside the clinch, I'm not uncomfortable because I've done jiu-jitsu and stuff, so it didn't scare me. But I could see, like, he could just reach out and clinch up with me whenever he wanted. So if I was starting to outstrike him, I just got clinched up. And then I'm like, well, shit, now I have to fight from here. And if you having that kind of grappling skill where you can, you know what, you could be hitting me, but I'm going to get to your body and hold you. And then it's not going to hurt as bad. And I can try to take you down.
Get
Or
into
even
a
if I
safe
hold
spot.
you, get to a safe
You kind of
spot.
learn that in wrestling, though.
And
Yeah.
if you're not in love with grappling and that's not something you really enjoy learning to get through jiu-jitsu, you have to learn how to stop takedowns no matter what.
Mhm.
So
Or you at least have to learn how to get back to your feet.
that's what I mean. You got to learn the defensive
Or-
parts of grappling no matter what, no matter if you want to be a grappler or not.
I mean, if
gonna
you're
be a
gonna do
fighter,
MMA.
if you're going to be a fighter,
Otherwise, you
have
better go to
learn.
boxing or Muay Thai.
You have to learn defensive grappling.
Chuck Liddell was a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, but the only reason he learned it is so he knew how
Right.
to get out.
Or like Israel Adesanya. He's
Exactly.
an amazing defensive grappler.
But the last piece I definitely would say is you have to have someone put 16-ounce gloves on. And you could put 16-ounce gloves on too.
Mhm.
But you have to, I used to do this a lot, especially like with Tristan or anything in the
Mhm.
beginning. You are all defense.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're just going to get your ass pummeled. They're 16-ounce gloves. You're probably not going to get knocked out, or you're at least not going to get cut open and die.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to learn to just sit there and just take this
Play defense.
Stay
onslaught,
calm.
because that's what amateur is.
Mm-hmm.
Amateur, like, it's either one or two things. It's either you're both very nervous and you're testing the waters, or it's you're throwing haymakers and
Until you're
kicks and
exhausted.
all this shit right out the window. And if you can't, the ref's going to stop it if you just freeze.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to learn how to be like, okay, this is happening. I
Mhm.
just got it's going to stop.
Weather the storm.
Well, this
So
Yep.
Chad wants us to rope climb from like a mountain, and
I
then
do.
you just sit there with no, supports. You climb up this rope. It's like 50 foot long or something, up to the top. He also wants us to put.
Is this from
weights up-
Limitless?
Yeah.
well, I actually missed. I saw them getting into that part, and then Lucy needed something, so I missed the climbing the hill part. But I saw most of the.
Now, when you presented this to me, you're like, we should do all these limitless challenges.
I think
That
we should
was
do a
one of
team
them.
building thing. It would
Where
be great.
I could just hold the rope for, I don't know, 3 seconds and then fold my death. That would be it.
Like, think about if 3 of us had to sit by the side of the pool and tie Michael's feet and hands together, and we had to encourage him not to give up.
Yeah, that's real team building.
I'll be the lifeguard.
I kind of want to do the
I think that's villain building.
the water
is what that is.
Yeah.
the water challenge, but I do think how hard that would be.
Yeah, let's do the waterboarding
I
challenge.
now question how much you watch this movie because Brandon asked, he goes, well, how does he prepare to do this crane walk? And you're like, well, he doesn't really prepare. That's what the show is about.
I said he
He'll
prepared. He did that
prepare.
VR thing,
Yeah.
and then
it's about stress and how he's trying to control his heart rate.
yeah,
Mm.
it's kind of neat.
I don't know what it is.
I just missed the hill challenge, but I saw the underwater one,
The water.
the VR one.
Yeah. And then there's another one. There's another water one. I think fasting. He
The
tries to-
fireplace, he had to go into a burning building and put fires out and drag bodies out like it's a test. It was kind of neat.
and then
He
had to
actually
fast-
failed that.
He had to fast 4 days.
That'd be a
He
tough
failed a
one.
lot of them, like the first time for sure. And it was neat to see, like,
He's Chris Hemsworth, man, he doesn't have the power of Thor. If he is Thor, he just do shit, right?
I mean,
This seems really long, so I'm
Yeah.
assuming I can't see any.
we're 45 minutes in.
Yeah,
Do we close the show?
we wrap her up.
We're
All
done?
right.
Thanks for not watching.
You want me to do my?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
Ronnie's got to do his.
You want me to do my sign off?
That's right.
Yep.
Can we not? Can we do Chad's? What was it that you said like in the beginning? And I was like,
Cats?
that's gonna be your. That should
Something
be the
about
new
cats.
sign off. That was about cats.
What was it?
Yeah.
Something about.
Don't let the cat see your penis.
That's it.
That's definitely
All right,
not
guys.
it.
Why is that not? That's totally the sign off.
Thank God it's that.
Don't let the cat see your penis, and we'll see you next time.
Meow.